Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. I'm so excited to be with you today. I have a gem of a guest. Oh my God, Johnathan Robinson. He's been on Oprah multiple times. He's been studying all these top spiritual teachers in the world. This guy's a little interested, I think, in enlightenment and stuff. He's got a whole Enlightenment Project. So what is enlightenment? What are we talking about? How do we become enlightened and all that sort of jazz, right? We're all about that here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. We've got to find out, we got to learn what we can learn about all this, and we need to get into it. And we want to be one of the foremost experts on it in terms of, I don't know, like all the studies he's done and all the meditation I'm sure he's done, all the deep dive stuff he's done. My God, he's been on Oprah for a reason. He's up to something amazing. We've got to learn about it. So Johnathan, it's glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Daniel. Looking forward to this.
All right. Okay, so let me share about Johnathan further with you. So now Johnathan is a psychotherapist. He's a best-selling author of 14 books, a professional speaker from Northern California. He has reached over 200 million people around the world with his practical methods, and his work has been translated into 47 languages. I love that number, 47. All right. Mr. Robinson has made numerous appearances again on Oprah and CNN, as well as other national talk shows. Johnathan's most recent book is called The Enlightenment Project. All right. How I Went from Depressed to Blessed, and You Can Too. It has been #1 on Amazon in the area of spiritual growth. In the book, Johnathan shares the best methods, stories, and ideas he's learned from interviewing 100 spiritual teachers, ranging from Deepak Chopra and the Dalai Lama to the late Mother Teresa, Wayne Dyer, and Ram Dass. And my goodness, this is like almost like a passion project. I could see myself taking on, like doing something like this. This sounds amazing, Johnathan. So grateful you've done the legwork for me, I suppose. I could look at it that way. So that's unbelievable. So, wow, I'd love to just get started. I just got to know like about you a little bit, and I was just like, oh yeah, we got to have him on the show. But I don't really know a lot about your backstory or anything like that. It is something sometimes I like to know about, especially when I'm getting to know people at first. Like, what in the world got you into all this stuff in the first place? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I think what gets a lot of people into personal or spiritual growth is some kind of trauma or pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the case. I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. So I kind of had my midlife crisis at age 12, which is a good time to have one because, you get out of the way. But I started reading self-hypnosis and meditation books and started doing those things at age 12. And things really just progressed from there. I decided, well, I want to meet the people who really know this stuff. So by age, 17, I was, connecting with Wayne Dyer and Ram Dass and other folks. And then, got to writing books. I also did my master's thesis on the therapeutic effects of MDMA, better known as ecstasy, on PTSD. So psychedelics and those types of experiences were also part of my path. Mm-hmm. But the way you learn anything is from somebody who knows more than you. So I decided I'd meet everybody on the planet who I had heard of and get as much good information and practical techniques from them. And it became a career after a while.
You guys started really young, but I got to tell you, the Dalai Lama's got you beat, I think. So yeah. It is funny to say, right? I mean, wow, that's remarkable. I mean, I know that a lot of us have that sense of spiritual, a lot of us haven't, but like a lot of us have had that sense of spiritual connection and that sense of magic from a young age, but to actually have gotten into studying and meditating at, at such an earlier age than most people ever do in our culture is quite remarkable. So it's really spurred on by like what's the meaning of life and what's going on, that sort of thing, or what kind of spurred you at that time? I'm just kind of
Well,
curious.
well, I was partly what's the meaning of life, and partly how can I get out of being suicidally depressed and so
Yeah.
shy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I heard a voice in my head one day when my parents were screaming at each other, which they did a lot, which said, if you had control of your mind, this would not be bothering you. And that's really true now as much as anything. The world is a tough place. People are suffering a lot. There's global warming and wars and all those things. But if you have control of your mind, this moment's good. Most moments are good unless you're in physical pain.
Right.
And as I interviewed enlightened folks, I saw that they had problems. They had money issues, they had relationship issues, but they were always joyful. And I wanted to know how I could get out of my depression and into joy and love. And that's been my lifelong project.
Wow, that's so remarkable. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I know when I always talk about when I talk about me as a kid, I'm like, I did have that sense of having this huge love in my heart and all that stuff and this enthusiasm for life. And it's, it comes across in this show for sure. And I felt very awkward though, right? So I was introverted, so to speak, I was more inward and shy, and so I just kind of start shutting down, and it was kind of my path. But I was always curious, like, yeah, why is everybody making such a big deal of everything? What's all the why is everybody getting all worked up, and why are people gossiping? And I didn't use that word, but why are they talking like this about each other? And why don't we just all love each other and stuff like that? And but then it's like I feel like I'd like to say like, yeah, and I stayed enlightened, I even got more enlightened, but no, I was the other way around. I think I like sort of got more wise and awake, but I became more deluded and bought into all the conditioning and all the concepts out there, and had got caught up in all that stuff. You're not good enough. You got to work harder. All the thing. Unless you're really do something outwardly significant, you're really not significant. I'm not saying I bought into it 1,000% on every level, but definitely took the bait when I knew better. I think when I was fresh and young, like I like the grades. It doesn't matter. I didn't get good grades. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Life's just good. And I was more happy-go-lucky, I was always called. And then I bought into it. And then, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. I'm not getting that good of grades. But that didn't happen until like I was a young adult. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I got to get serious now.
Well, Daniel, you and I live in a very dangerous cult called Western culture, and
Yeah.
it teaches us how we're not enough, and it teaches us that the answer is in more money or more something. But spiritual teachers forever have been saying, the kingdom of heaven's within, the peace is within you. But we don't have, most people are not instructed on the very best ways to get there. I just got a new iPhone. I don't know anybody who has an iPhone from more than 12 years ago.
Hmm.
But people are using spiritual techniques from 2000 years ago.
Hmm.
So most people are not getting very good results with techniques from 2000 years ago. But the good news, and in the Enlightenment Project book, I mentioned about 20 techniques that have really been invented in the last 10 years
Wow.
that to me are like power tools.
Mhm.
If you want to cut a board, you can cut it with a butter knife. It'll just take you a week. Or you could use a power saw, and it'll take you half a second.
Mhm.
So some spiritual tools that have been invented recently are like an advanced technology that can get you to peace, love, and joy much more quickly and efficiently than ever before. And I think the universe is giving us the grace, knowing that we're in a crap storm now, and we need to awaken as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And that's why I
Mhm.
wrote the book. Because I've been blessed with interviewing all the most known teachers on the planet. And so I
Mhm.
feel a responsibility to get those techniques out there and the stories of what I learned from them to as large an audience as possible.
That's great. Do you want to meditate and make money?
Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today.
I want to circle back to something you said earlier. You interviewed all these people, you realized, yeah, I mean, what you probably knew already, but you got in firm contact with, yeah, they're human too. They have suffering. I've had teachers before that I really respect, but they would say things like, I've lost my entire personal self. I don't have all that stuff anymore. And then like later that same day, almost like they say something, like that totally is not like you have no personal self. Like, so even spiritual teachers that I've even respected a lot and still respect can become kind of diluted. We are all diluted in our own way, no matter how many techniques, no matter how many processes we come up with. We have to just get over it. Like he was the same teacher that says the minute you open your mouth, the way I translate, the minute you open your mouth, you're already missing the mark, sort of, like
Uh-huh. Well, people have a lot of misconceptions about enlightenment. They think it will solve all their problems or that you become a perfect human being. In
Mhm,
reality, what it does, there's different types of enlightenment. I talk about that in the Enlightenment Project.
mhm,
There's 4 or 5 very different types that each have advantages and disadvantages. They all lead to a lot of inner peace, though. But
mhm.
some make you not that functional in the world. I didn't want to do with those. Um, so I in one of the chapters I talk about the 25 myths about enlightenment, so that people
Mhm,
have a really better sense of what it's like to be
mhm.
enlightened, what the different types are like, and maybe what methods might help them to reach the type of enlightenment that would work in their life. And people used to think that took 4,000 lifetimes or 40 years of meditation.
Mhm.
Sometimes it can happen very, very quickly if you have the right information and the right method.
Right. So what are some of the top myths that you believe people have about enlightenment? I mean, one of them I'll just share and then I'll let you share from there. It's just this idea that all of a sudden you're in this I used to buy into it even. I was like, you're in this exalted state, the seeming, duality doesn't exist anymore. You're one with the one, you live in eternal bliss. There's not one person on the planet I've seen that I believe is anywhere near in that state. Like they're still a human, like you said. So so I would think that would be one of them at least. Like, could you tell us more about the myths?
Yeah, well, actually, I have met a couple of people like that, Daniel, and
Well, I'm like, let
they're
me meet
rare.
them, Jonathan. We'll see. We'll see. I could get them into a pain body fast, I bet. So, but okay. I mean, I'm open to the idea.
Yeah. Well, but there's few of them if there are those. One myth that I think is very common is that it makes you good at everything. No, it makes you good at one thing, finding inner peace. Um, I know enlightened people that are very bad communicators, they're bad in relationships, they have money problems. So it doesn't do all those things. It does lead to peace and generally a feeling of love and joy as well. Another popular myth is that it makes you a highly moral person. That is not always the case. A lot of these gurus have had sexual scandals or money
Yeah.
scandals. So it does create, from my personal experience, where I've gone through, I'd call it the lower level rung of enlightenment, and my life is really fantastic. I must say, I don't want to brag because it only happened because I was spending so much time doing the right methods and
Mhm,
surrounding myself with the right people.
mhm.
Um, but I see all this suffering out there. People are depressed. I used to be suicidally depressed. So I know what that's like. And when you can tap into this reservoir of peace, stillness, silence, love within you, it does make all the bows and arrows of daily life a lot easier to handle, or at least a lot more pleasant to handle.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I have a huge I mean, whatever, huge, significant, I'll put it that way. Maybe huge is too huge, but significant background with definitely with depression, but also more so, I would say, with anxiety. Just
Hmm.
that anxious. I tend to have that that sort of energy going on. I'm sensitive. I'm like, got that in the background. Almost, most of the time, probably, if I'm honest, like it's at some level. It might be like way down. Yes, I've experienced weeks of like nothing disturbs me. I'm just like, whatever, I'm in bliss. Like that's amazing. And I can feel it in my heart. The whole universe is singing no matter what comes my way. Oh, someone died. Oh, my heart's still singing and joyful. And I've been in those states, but my experience has not been that lasts. What the permanence that I've experienced is just being in such contact with the presence itself and the observer self that no matter what's going on, even if I slip out and I get really crazy, it's not very long at all. Like whatever amount of time, very quickly, I'm like, yeah, okay, let it all go. We're good.
Yeah, right.
Right. It quickly dissolve. It just doesn't have this the stickiness that it would have had, many years ago.
Right. Yeah. And when that happens, it's like having a best friend with you all the time, because wherever you go, there you are.
Right, exactly. Here I am again.
And
Yeah,
I'm actually rather lazy, Daniel. So I really kind of focus on methods that take under a minute to do.
that's great.
And I kind of collect those methods
Mhm.
because, for me, it's like being a kid in a candy store. A method that can take me from stressed out to blissed out in a minute. Well, yeah, I can do that,
Wow.
no matter how lazy I am. So in the book and in other stuff that I do, I try to just, give people, try this.
Mm.
And if you find something that works for you, then you have a friend for life. I'll give you an example of a method. If you want really
Yeah.
lazy, I'll give you a method that takes 5 seconds to do. Okay.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
But it has a story attached to it.
Okay, we gotta wait. I love it.
Many, when I was interviewing a lot of these teachers, a lot of them said that gratitude is a doorway to enlightenment. And, but I'm lazy, so I didn't want to do a gratitude journal. That took too much effort, screw that. So, one day a friend of mine came back from India and said that a guru there had given him a magical mantra for helping him feel gratitude all the time. And he looked
Mhm,
totally like, on fire and blissed out. I said, well, what's the mantra, And he
mhm,
said, well, you got to go directly to the guru and get it directly from him.
mhm.
Have you been to India, Daniel?
No, I haven't. This is one of the places I really want to go to.
Yeah, well, it's a long way away, and
Yes.
and it's very polluted once you get there. But I traveled all the way to get the stupid mantra, and so so and then once I was there, I had to take a rickshaw for 4 hours, and I had to wait in line 3 hours to talk to the guru. I'm kind of pissed off that I have to do all this. He could have just given me the stupid mantra, but so I finally get to the guru, and I say, I'd like to know your mantra for feeling gratitude all the time. And in his Indian accent, he says, yes, my mantra is the most powerful mantra on earth. And he leans into my ear to whisper it to me. He says, whenever possible, repeat these words. The mantra I give you are the words, thank you.
Right.
Well, I look at him and I go, that's it? I
That's what
traveled
I came here for,
18,000 miles to
right?
get thank you? That's it? He says, no, 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 no. That's it is the mantra you have been using. That makes you feel like you never have enough. My mantra is thank you, not that's it. That's it will take you nowhere.
Yeah.
So I look at him and I say, well, thanks for nothing. And he
Funny.
looks at me and says, thanks for nothing is not the mantra. You must say it from your heart. So feel your heart for 5 seconds and then say thank you for your kids or a nice meal or the sunset or for this breath or for the fact that you don't have a toothache today, just 5 seconds at a time for
Mhm,
whatever's in front of you. And
mhm,
soon you'll feel overwhelming gratitude. And the funny thing is that actually does work,
mhm,
that it doesn't take that long before it builds up a momentum of like, it's all a gift. I mean, life is a gift. It could end any moment. But, the fact that we have food, the fact that we have shelter, the fact that we aren't in Ukraine fighting a war, you know,
mhm,
uh, if you tap into that, it does open the heart, does create a sacred divine connection, And, you know, and if that method doesn't work for you, there's 19 others that are also very effective.
Right. That's a funny story, though. Thanks for nothing. Oh my God. Yeah, thank you. That
It's
is
already
definitely,
working. You see there, Daniel? You just said it. It's a
yeah. I
magical
mean,
mantra.
yeah. I mean, it definitely works for me. It's definitely one of my mantras. I keep, and I have up on one of my shelves, you know, where I look at certain papers or whatever. It doesn't matter, but like the specifics. But I have it right now. I say thank you for everything, and I make sure that I look at that all the time. Like I'm saying thank you to life, thank you for everything. Doesn't matter what it is. It's, you know, the so-called good and bad. It's like just thank you. I get to have these experiences, right? It's
Right, right.
whoa, how amazing this is, you know, whatever it may be, is to be grateful for the experience. And that's, I think that's is so, that is one of those foundational things, is everybody talks about gratitude. And if you can be grateful for everything, literally, like,
Well,
man,
then you're enlightened.
freedom. Yeah, exactly. 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 So I love that one. What are some of the other tricks you got up your sleeves?
Well, you know, I give away 5 of these methods for free on my website, theenlightenmentproject.net, you know,
Mhm.
and it's a free ebook that describes 5 of them. But one of them is, you know, normally we have a story in our head about ourselves, our day, our problems, blah, blah, blah. But let's say you imagine you put that story on the shelf for a moment and you just imagine that you were just born.
Mhm.
You know, when you're just born, you're newly here. There's no history. There's no even prediction of what's happening in the future. You just like, what would it be like if you were like an alien being and you just entered a human body and now you're seeing a world where there's all these colors and you're hearing these sounds and you're seeing these shapes. You know, most babies have that look in their eyes like, oh my God, you know, they're like, whatever, you
Mhm.
know, that's what really enlightenment is. It's almost like it's just this moment separate from everything else, and this moment is like full and open, and there's a presence of love for just now. And that's, I call that the just born identity, you know, that you imagine that you just got here and you notice any resistance to what's happening now, and you just fully welcome now and allow it. That's a very simple practice.
Oh wow, yeah, that is good. I like that. That it's sort of like that childlike wonder sort of idea, like just taking everything fresh. They say that, right, the minute you start labeling things is when you start losing enlightenment in the first place. Like you see a tree, you say it's a tree. Now you'll never see the tree again, they say. You know, that's
Right.
like there's some truth to that. I think, you know, we can let go of the label and just be present though. But I hear, you know, the wisdom in that. Well, that's a cool one. Yeah, I mean, it's all this stuff. Basically, it's just like let it. Isn't it sort of like just let everything be and embrace everything? Isn't it come down to that, a lot of it, or what
Well,
do
a
you?
lot of it comes down to that. But, you know, if you're describing a Van Gogh painting, you can describe it as a certain amount of oil and ingredients, or you can describe it as a beautiful scene, or you can describe it as a piece of canvas. You know, there's a lot of ways. One of the ways that I like is you just describe what awareness is. What is awareness? What does it feel like? What is this thing that is giving us life? And so there's a lot of ways in. Some might be devotional, some might be awareness based, some might be heart based, some might be even intellectually based. You know, I have a podcast called Awareness Explorers. And besides interviewing spiritual teachers like Deepak Chopra or Byron Katie or whatever,
Mhm.
we discuss certain ideas like how do you get into your heart in a busy daily life? How do you work through the conditioning that we got as kids that might be interfering with just a piece of right now? So there's a lot of aspects to this that you need to be aware of, that and different things work for different folks. That's the other thing I've learned.
Right, because we got all the conditioning, so we could be like, oh yeah, just embrace and love everything, everything's good, and yeah, you got your conditioning working upon you. So until you you address those things, it's hard to stay in a state of bliss and gratitude and fulfillment.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
addressing those things is really definitely key. And yeah, Byron Katie is a good one, or 4 questions. And I've been to her workshops and trained, with her and everything. So yeah, that's always a good one. Like, is it true, right? Like that basic thing, like every thought we have, like I remember coming back from one of her workshops, and so my wife's talking to me. She's like, well, this is happening. I said, well, is that true? And then she said something. I said, well, is that true? She says, you keep saying that. I don't think I'll be talking much anymore. Like,
So it might be true that method does not work for her.
right. Well, I mean, just like you drive somebody nuts to be saying it every time somebody says something, right? I mean, what the heck? Can't I even talk around here? Like, because like I said earlier on, like we can't even talk. And before you know it, we're going to be saying something that we can't say we absolutely know it's true. Like she says, is it true? Is it absolutely true? Well, no, we can't say anything's absolutely true.
Exactly.
We're honest, right? But it can be the most liberating idea at the same time. Like, I don't know what's true, but hey, let's have some fun. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so what's one of the most surprising, or some of the most surprising things? Obviously, this guy just saying thank you is a sort of surprise.
Yeah.
But what were some of the other surprises? You're, interviewing people like the Dalai Lama and Deepak and people like this. Like, were there some things that are like, holy cow, as long as I've been in this, I hadn't considered that before? Or was it like, no, I kind of know these things? Or I'm curious if anything really surprised you in these interviews.
There were things in that, I saw that people were not using, the people who had been really transcended to higher levels often were not using the normal methods. They were using methods that they had invented for themselves. Take like Mother Teresa. She wasn't, she didn't meditate. Mostly what she did was she saw people as Jesus. If Jesus walked into the room, I'd probably be pretty kind and blissed out.
Wow, right. Totally.
The Dalai Lama obviously knows a lot of forms of meditation, but he had come up with little tweaks that worked for him. Or I was talking to this one person, I said, do you meditate? And they said, well, what really did it for me was I couldn't meditate very well, but I could focus on people that I love. So I made a list of all the people I've ever loved, like 50 people, and I spend a minute focusing on what I love about them. And I bathe myself in love. And what a better way to meditate than to feel like overwhelming love, So that's not a Vipassana meditation. That's not Hatha yoga. No, I've never read that in a holy book. But that's why I think the best methods are ones that have been invented by people who somehow found a way to awaken themselves that was very specific, and those things tend to work really a lot better than I'm going to sit here and meditate on my breath, and even if it kills me, like that. So I found that surprising that that all the best known meditations were not actually useful to most people.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. I mean, there's people that say, I can't even meditate. You've heard that one a lot, right? I can't meditate. Or, okay, so there's two types. So I'd love for you to address. How about the people that say, well, I can't meditate, but it doesn't matter because, like I do Qigong and that, they say that's my meditation. I can't do stillness meditation. We're just sitting there. I can't do it. It's not even possible for me. So we've got that. And then you got people all the way to another type of experience. Maybe this is too much at once, but I tend to do that sometimes. But this whole other idea, I'm so enlightened, I don't even need meditation. I'm so connected all the time. I'm like, give me a break. I don't care how connected you are. When you go in deeper within, you're going deeper within, So that's my take on it. So I love on those two things. First of all, first wisdom I'd love to hear, if you have some wisdom to share on this, is like people that say, oh yeah, the stillness is no good for me and all that. Is it possible it's not good for some people, or are they kidding themselves and they need to try harder or something like that? Or what do you think?
Well, meditation's a little bit like food. Just because you don't like broccoli doesn't mean that you don't like ice cream.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different types of meditation. Qigong is a type of meditation. My wife finds great stillness raking leaves. Thank God we live in a place that has a lot of leaves, because she can't meditate, but she enters into blissful states raking leaves. So, more power to her. So
Mhm.
I think everybody has something that they do. What my favorite meditation now, besides focusing on love, as that one person did, is I look into my dog's eyes and I tell her how much I love her for like several minutes a day. She loves it. I love it. I totally bliss out with the devotion and love I have for my dogs. That's not written in many holy books. So
Mhm.
I think you have to explore what really gives you that place of peace,
Mhm.
love, and joy, and call that, whatever that is, call that your meditation.
Yeah, I mean, that so makes sense. We've got to find our own authentic path, is what I'm hearing you say in my own
Hmm.
mind. Like you got to find your own authentic path, and that's what's going to likely work best for you. I mean, I guess anything's possible, right? Maybe somebody else's method does the trick for you, but but often, the most customized thing that you're guided to do that brings you into that connection or whatever we're calling it, it makes sense. Like you're designing it specifically for you, rather than relying on the guru to give you the right technique to bring you into it.
Right. A lot of gurus, they only have one technique. Well, the chances that that's the key one for you is not very high. That's why, in the Enlightenment Project, I give like the top 30. And,
Yeah.
and you read those and you say, yeah, I can focus on love, or I can focus on just being born. I can focus on, awareness or whatever it is. And you try through your personal experience to see which ones seem to work the best for you.
Right. Oh, I can think of again some people. I don't need to. I won't say their names, but there are those teachers I was just referencing before. Like, no, I'm so connected in my heart. I'm so fulfilled. Once meditation's for the babies. The people. Literally, I've heard people say that before. Somebody. I quite honestly, I think. Again, I appreciate, respect them. Don't get me wrong. Like, but yet it sounds egoic to me. Like, oh, that's for
Yeah.
the babies. That's beginner stuff, and I'm beyond that. I'm so connected. What the heck's this meditation thing about anymore? I don't need it. I don't know. I don't really buy into it. I think I don't know why. Maybe I just don't understand. Maybe it's true and I don't understand. But what's your
Well,
take on people that say
think of
things?
it, let's say you were a tennis player, and let's say you had an amazing serve. Some people have an amazing ability to meditate, and that they don't they're not getting that much benefit from meditating anymore or from
Mhm.
practicing a serve. But that doesn't mean that they have a great forehand and backhand. And in a
Uh,
guru, it
mhm.
doesn't mean that they are good at relationships or good at communication. So
Mhm.
I always tell people, make sure you're focusing on your weak link. The thing that you might not be good at. It might be that you need to focus on finances, because if you don't put a roof over your head, your life is not going to be good. My old friend Ramdas didn't take care of his body, and that led to a stroke that was debilitating for him. He'd say, too bad. He said at the time, like, I thought bodies aren't that important. Well, no, if you don't take care of your body, it's going to be hard to meditate. It's going to be hard to do other things. So, I tell people to really know what their shortcoming is and focus on that. That might be trying to quiet the mind, but it might be something else, because
Mhm.
I'm pretty good at meditating, so I
Mhm.
still do it. I do it because I love it.
Mhm.
But I'm more focused on other weak points in me that could really use an uplift.
Yeah, like I mean, people that say, "Well, the body doesn't matter. I could eat whatever I want. I just live in protect in the eternal, so it doesn't really matter. This is also illusory anyway," and like, all that sort of stuff. I mean, the first thought that comes to my mind, I'm like, "What are you avoiding?" It's the first thought
Yeah,
you have. You're avoiding something, being in the physical, right? I mean,
right.
like for an example, so maybe. Like you said, maybe you ought to give some more attention to the physicals, because one of the impulses as you're awakening for most people is, oh yeah, it'd be great to get out of this body. It'd be great to just ascend and go back to eternal source. And that's what they're telling themselves anyway. And they start actually sort of leaving their body because it's been so painful to be here on Earth.
Uh-huh.
So, is this something you see a lot with the people you try to help on this journey, that people are, yeah, they're blissing out. That's part of, like that good, you feel the bliss, but now we got to get back into the body. I know it's definitely was part of my journey.
Yeah, an analogy I use in that regard is like, let's say you have a plane with one very strong wing, like,
Mm-hmm.
the blissing out wing.
Mm-hmm.
But if the other wing is, taking care of your body, taking care of your finances, taking care of relationships is very weak, well, a plane with one very long wing and one short wing is going to go around in circles and then it's going to crash.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, work on your weak wing,
Mm-hmm.
and a plane with two strong wings, the material and the spiritual. Well, that plane can soar, and it can soar for a long time. So, some people who are blissing out, some of my friends who took that path, they say, "Hey, remember your zip code. Remember how much money's in your bank account. How good are you taking care of your mate. Stuff like that." And
Mm-hmm.
that's part of their spiritual path. So,
Right.
uh, to really be a well-functioning human being now, you need to have both wings, the inner peace and the ability to handle the material world and people effectively and compassionately.
I think that's a big idea for some people that are listening, possibly because some people think it's about transcending the physical. We don't need to worry about the bank account anymore. We don't need to be concerned with the physical anymore. Like that's their goal. Like I want to transcend all this. I just want to go back home. And so I think it's really cool that you're bringing up that aspect. I mean, it's obviously one of the things I'm about when I say spiritual rock star. It's like we got to get integrated. Come on, you got to get real at every level. And yet people are looking for an escape hatch. Like, how do I not have to deal with these things? But maybe that is your path of awakening, saying like, hey, can you be enlightened when you're with your parents? They say, right? Can you be enlightened when you look at your business ledger or whatever? Can you be enlightened? All these
Yeah,
different aspects. Like, can you fully embrace everything? Because if you can't, how enlightened are you really?
I totally agree, Daniel. And it's really about once you've had a vision of that peace, joy, and love are possible, it's really about integrating it into normal life.
Right, right.
And that is the way that you contribute the most. The fact that I feel good most of the time allows me to help people more. And I try to not use the spiritual bypass that is easily available sometimes.
Right. It is very available sometimes, right? Completely. So you've definitely met all these different, like Mother Teresa, like fascinates me. What did you learn from Mother Teresa? Because there's this whole thing. We found her diary, and she was depressed. And oh, by the way, she wasn't as good of a person as you think. And I've heard all kinds of things. You hear this about people, these great leaders, right? Gandhi and all. They all got scandals. It seems like that get dredged up because they're human. And it's like, okay, but what did you know this? Didn't you realize that about them? So I think that's interesting. It's like just because, yeah, they're doing great things and they have this level of awakening, compassion, and love. Yeah, it doesn't mean they don't have a lot of foibles at the same time, right? I mean, she was
Mhm.
very depressed from what we could tell from her writings.
Well, they're taking the news, let's make it fancy and flashy. My interaction with her was she was incredibly loving and kind. Was she sometimes overwhelmed by the amount of suffering around her? I'm sure she was. And of
Yeah.
course, if you take a little bit of somebody's life and blow it up, it can look kind of distorted. And though I would say that the path that she was taking, which was really around Jesus suffering, um, was not a path so much of joy as some or awareness like other paths. So, as I
Mhm.
said, different types of enlightenment, different
Right.
types of awakening have advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I was really fascinated. That's one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about is tell us about these four different types.
Uh,
Maybe some of our listeners, maybe me, maybe we fall in somewhere in these categories, sort of. So I'd love to learn about them.
Well, there's a Harvard psychologist that has studied this, and he says he kind of calls it four locations. Location one, which is kind of what I'm in, is where if you just take a moment, you can relax into the stillness and silence and peace very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's always there. If you attend to it, you can get caught up in stories and negative emotions, but they dissolve very quickly if you want. Location two is more like feel connected to everything, like there's just one energy going on, whether that energy manifests as you or Daniel. Ram Dass used to say there's just one of us here in drag,
Right. Right.
so um, there's a more of a feeling of oneness to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Location three is more like saints, where they feel love all the time. They feel compassion all the time. They don't really have emotions anymore, except for
Mm-hmm.
love, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And those people are really fun to be around, but they're not that effective in the world because
Mm.
there's like no mind there. There's just like
Yeah.
a big heart presence.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
there's location four, which is even less ability to influence the world, because you're like just now. It's almost like how a dog lives. There's just this moment. There's no thinking of the past or future. There's not much mind. There's not even a sense of a individual self anymore. And I've experienced moments of each of these, and you can kind of fine tune where you want to be, actually,
Mm.
once you know them. And once if I was going to go on retreat for a week, I'd go to location four because it's very blissful, but I'm not able to necessarily remember my zip code in that location.
Right. Right. Good point. I mean, I think like what is you listed, I could relate to the first three for sure to some degree. And the number one actually spoke to me the most. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds about right. And then the other two sounded kind of like, yeah, I have some levels of
I've had
that.
a moment, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And then the now is all there is. I probably experienced the less, even though I know it mentally, of course. Like I always say it doesn't get any better than this, right? Because it's a good reminder. Like we keep searching, like something better is going to happen, or no, not exactly, not really. Ultimately, it doesn't get any better than it is right now. It never does, and people think, well, then what's the point of life? Because the mind is oriented towards this idea we got to be always expanding and growing and doing this or doing that, but yet there's nothing greater than right now. So it's really a fascinating situation for the mind.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, so where can people learn more about to get your book, learn more about it, to be able to buy it, learn more about the material, etc.? You started to mention about that earlier. I'd love to learn more about that.
Well, there's a couple things. There's at my website, theenlightenmentproject.net. If they put in their email address, they get a free ebook of my favorite 5 quick and easy ways to experience awakening.
Mm-hmm.
That's free. They also get the first chapter of the book, and there's a button that they can buy buy the book as well. So that's one website. And then if people want to learn more about my stuff, I do a podcast called Awareness Explorers, and where I interview teachers and talk about these ideas. So those are good ways to contact me.
Okay. Okay, great. So we'll put in the links in the show notes for people as well. And yeah, it's great. I mean, I'd love to pick your brain about every single interview, but do you have them recorded anywhere, by the way?
Well, on the podcast, I recorded those interviews, and you can watch those
Okay.
awarenessexplorers.com, or you can find them on YouTube. Some of them are really fascinating. My favorite was a guy named Dr. Jeffrey Martin who interviewed 1,200 enlightened people, and I asked him what he found surprising. He said according to the data, everything the teachers said was dead wrong, and everything the scientists thought was also wrong. So, he said all of it was surprising. I like the fact that we now can study this to see what works, what doesn't work, and kind of follow the data, which is how we do with everything else. But nobody ever thought of doing that about enlightenment before. So
Right.
it's a really golden age if you want to find inner peace now, because the information has gotten so much better.
Yeah, I mean, because there's all these myths you talk about, and you can learn more in your book about it, the 25 myths, I think you said. So there's
Mhm.
so many different misconceptions, and I think one of the things that I'm hearing is, which is not a brand new idea, but it's something, a good reminder. It's like there isn't just one way, there isn't just one path. Because a lot of times I think people just think there's this thing, enlightenment, and like it's this one thing, and like when you're there, you're just there, and like that kind of thing. And like I don't. Do you have a theory? I was wondering if you have a theory of why people have that concept. Where does that come from? That idea?
Well, it's kind of like we the Eskimo, you hear that they have 50 names for snow, because
Mm-hmm.
snow is really key to their survival in their world.
Mm-hmm.
We have one name for love,
Mm-hmm.
because love is not that important in this culture. People are more likely to ask you, would you like fries with that order, rather than, how much love do you have in your heart nowadays? That's
Yeah.
not a question people are asking on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So, when it comes to enlightenment, we just had one word for the whole spectrum of everything, because how many people are focused on? Not that many. And we didn't know much about it.
Mhm.
Once you start diving in, you realize, oh, well, it's a spectrum. There's a lot of different types. There's a lot of different methods. There's a lot of different things to know about it. So that's why, we only had one word, and it wasn't very accurate.
Yeah.
Uh, but luckily we are getting, we now have two words, enlightenment and awakening. That's at least two things.
We got a couple going now, or at least
Yeah, yeah.
ascension then, and all these other ideas. But yeah, we got
Yeah,
two
throw
names,
that in as well.
maybe. Yeah, right. Okay, great. Well, we're at the time of the show where I do a little tuning in with my guests. You ready to receive, Jonathan?
Sounds great to me, Daniel.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my little thing to tune in real briefly here. So what I'm getting is they're just showing me the sense of just the zenness of life is what's coming through. So it's just I just hear like everything in Zen, like everything in Zen. So I always just share what's coming through. So it's almost like maybe I don't know. So part of your being at least is like, oh, let's just put everything in Zen, in the Zen state, and it's like then we're gonna have a better world. And but some part of your psyche or being or soul or whatever seems to be pointing in that direction and focused on that quality. So I'm hearing that. So let's see what else is coming through. Hmm. So yeah, people wouldn't see it during the interview, but like, yeah, you definitely can go into like the so-called underworld and be like, all right, let's get to work. Let's get this taken care of. Let's get it done. And now you do it in a lighter way than maybe you did in the past, but it's still in there. It's like, all right, nobody gets out, so we get this done. I get that kind of vibe. And so yeah, but by the time they come out, everybody's happy. Let's say if you're running it like you're managing the project, so to speak, or running the project or whatever you want to call it. You might lock the room on everybody, but when everybody leaves, most everybody is going to be pretty happy because what gets produced is really good. As there's part of you that really insists on it. Got to get this right. Come on now, that's what I'm seeing. Okay, let's see what's next. Um, the other thing is just I get this with a number of the guests is just a sense of magic, like just the sense of magic that flows through you. And I look at things like I don't know what your perspective on chakras are, but when I look at the chakras, like I said, feel into that. It's just like I feel it from here going down into your heart, and it's just there's a part of you that just loves to just be more whimsical and just it's a great day, let's hey, let's just have some of this, or let's just some have of that, or that sort of thing. And I think, part of the depression early on might have been like the idea that life wasn't magical, that you couldn't really just be like that. Like the concept of that wasn't true. But you're like, oh, you just kind of have this or kind of have that, and it just flows. And again, it comes back to like that Zen sort of thing, like just yeah, things just kind of come together. And but yeah, you do have that taskmaster in there at the same time, like, yeah, but we got some real work to do. So it's pretty cool. You're pretty, you're well connected and pretty whole with everything, but and it's just, I noticed these different aspects. So it's pretty cool, because there's you're in good contact with all these different aspects that are, can work together well when they're integrated. So that's pretty nice. Anyway, so there's a couple things coming through. I always just kind of ask real quick afterwards, but any thoughts or reflections of what came through?
Well, I think, I talked earlier about those two wings, trying to get that balance between the doing and being. And it's a hard balance to create. Sometimes I've gone one way, sometimes I've gone the other way, but currently I feel pretty integrated that way, and that feels really nice. And, when you have the being and the doing in balance, it does create kind of a sense of magic. I said it's kind of like a plane soaring, and so good things are happening, and I'm very grateful for all my teachers that have helped me create a little bit more balance that way.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, I'm so grateful for you being on the show today. Do you have any last words for everybody today?
Well, the tagline I have on my podcast, Awareness Explorers, is always keep exploring. Because if you keep exploring, hopefully you'll find what you're looking for. And when we find more peace and love within, then we create a better world for everybody.
Yes. All right. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Johnathan. I mean, I'm just so grateful. I feel like, again, we could, like some of my other guests too, most of my guests, I would say everybody, but we could go on for hours on this topic, but that's why we got the book and all the resources you can go check out. So check out the Enlightenment Project.net, right? Did I get that right? Right.
You got it right.
And check out everything about Johnathan, of course, if you're guided to do so. So again, thank you for being on the show today, Johnathan.
Thanks for the opportunity, Daniel.
And thanks to everyone listening in today. Keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time.
The Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.